Alrighty then. Another year, another championship. I hope you're well rested. Well, as much as you can be for someone who has to spend half their life in the gym anyway. Let's get to it.
Hey, what's going on, aarava here, and welcome back to my F1 2018 career here today for episode number 22 and the start of season number 2. If you guys did miss the previous episode, the ending of season 1, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. But we head in here to the Australian Grand Prix to kick off the second season in our vanilla 2018 career mode here on the F1 2018 game, and looking forward to it. We come here with 5 upgrades that have all passed. I was a little bit worried that one of them was going to fail, but no, all 5 upgrades, two minor engine upgrades, 1 minor and major error update, and then a minor chassis update have all been installed onto the car. That's awesome. So we've got engine power, ERS, a drag reduction update, front downforce, and also tyre wear with some new dampers on the car, on the chassis. So that's going to be great. And looking at the chart then, we are pretty much level, and so we are on par with Ferrari and Red Bull Racing here, and Mercedes are actually 4th best technically, just like a pixel underneath all 3 of us. But you can see there, pretty much you can't distinguish the difference between Ferrari, Red Bull, and us here at Haas there. So we're literally level pegging. Obviously, the way all 3 of these teams get to that point of the comparison chart is different. Obviously, we've got the best chassis. Ferrari, I think, are still right up there with the engine, and Red Bull are still way up there with the aero side of things. But all in all, it means that we all end up being very, very similar together overall. You can see on the chart there as well, McLaren maintain their advantage over Renault. They're lagging a little bit behind Mercedes, but I suspect with some rapid upgrades from McLaren, I'm hoping it could become a 5-way scrap between, all the top 3 established teams, Haas and then McLaren. That'd be awesome. You can see there, McLaren still 3rd best in the engine ranking. Red Bull still top of aero, but we are now ahead of McLaren for the first time now in the aero department. And with only 1 small minor upgrade, we could get ahead of Mercedes then in the aero department. And obviously, I've already said we're already the top #1 dog in the chassis way. And obviously, at the end of last season, we confirmed that we saved all our reliability parts. That was the only thing that changed in the regulations. In the 2018 game, you get rule regulation changes from season to season. I got very, very lucky. I'll fully admit that. I got very lucky. The only thing that got reset for me was durability. I know other career mode guys on YouTube have been reset other major departments. I know some of you guys have told me in the comments below that you've had other big departments being reset. I got very, very lucky in that sense, and so it does set up a really exciting season. You can see there, literally, you can't even tell the difference between Red Bull, Ferrari, and Haas there, and even Mercedes. So it's going to be so close, hopefully, and that's going to make this season really competitive and really, really fun. It's going to be close margins, no room for major errors, and yeah, it's going to be really, really fun. So if you guys are looking forward to it, already hit that like button, but let's go into practice then for the Australian Grand Prix.
Welcome to our viewers from around the globe. You join us just as today's practice session for the Australian Grand Prix is about to start. Beside me to take you through free practice today is a man with 3 decades of racing experience under his belt. It is, of course, Anthony Davidson. Thanks for joining us today, Ant, and tell me, where should we be focusing our attention today?
I think we need to be looking across the entire field to see how far these cars are able to push a single set of tyres. While everyone will be trying different setups and running with different fuel loads, if you're attentive enough, you can definitely pick out trends for each type of tyre compound, which will give us a rough idea of how long the drivers are able to stay out there during a stint in the race.
So our very first team goal here in the season is to try and complete 8 practice programs to get a bonus of R&D points of 600 there. That's part of our contract, obviously, that we signed at the end of last season. So I have to go through and keep on rapidly trying to do these as much as we can. But in terms of comparing this car now from literally 21 episodes ago to this Australian Grand Prix when we first started, definitely felt a difference mid-apex. The car felt very, very light, but I'm going to be honest, downforce-wise, didn't feel too different. Obviously, we haven't really done that much on the downforce side of our car, but chassis-wise, could definitely feel the lightweight nature of the car, and the engine power in the race will hopefully come to use. But let's go into qualifying. Looks like there could be some rain involved.
Welcome to Melbourne, where qualifying for the Australian Grand Prix should be getting underway shortly. So, could be a tasty one today then, Ant. We've got all the ingredients, that's for sure. Treacherous conditions, an ever-changing racetrack, and 1 or 2 cars just behind the pace setters who maybe, just maybe, fancy a bit of an upset after a good performance from them in free practice.
And the question has to be, of course, what is that circuit going to look like in 10 to 15 minutes from now? If you think the rain's going to get worse, then you have to be straight out when the lights go green to find whatever grip you can. But if it eases off, then you're better off waiting, saving the tyres, and going out at the perfect moment. The other thing that comes with these conditions? Traffic. and the lack of visibility that comes from sitting in the spray. It's going to be a constant problem, and I expect to see a lot of frustrated drivers with ruined laps out there today.
So it's going to be a rather miserable first outing of driving this car with any sort of anger then in Season 2 here of our career mode. Full wet tyres at the start of Q1 then, and so it's been we've had a few opening seasons like this before in the past in F1 where we've had a wet qualifying. It's always quite exciting, but I'm a little bit worried as well because generally I don't drive as well as I do in the dry as I do in the wet. The AI generally have a bit of an advantage, so we'll see. It did go well for us last time around Spain, way back in episode number 5 of this career mode. I did a pretty decent qualifying then when it was wet conditions around Catalonia, so let's see. But Australia generally, the AI seem to be very strong and consistent around here, and you can see actually as we go through Q1 it transitioned from a full wet tyre to intermediate. So I set 2 times on full wet, so I improved on my second run on full wet, but then that was kind of thrown out of the window by the fact that I could go on intermediates at the end. I was quite surprised because it didn't seem like, you can see visually, I still think that looks like full wet tyres, but the inters were working okay. My engineer told me to go on inters, and thankfully I listened to him because we make it through into Q2. Myself and Magnussen there lagging a little bit behind. Magnussen though qualified on full wets. He didn't bother to go on intermediates, and actually on the full wet conditions he was up at the top there. So the car is actually apparently looking very strong in the hands of both our cars, but obviously we'll have to see how it shakes out in this final time, obviously as we go through Q2 and then Q3. At the moment back on intermediates, you can see the rain definitely letting up now. It's definitely a lot less apparent now since the end of Q1 to Q2 now, and it's the sun is coming also out through those clouds on the left hand side, so it might even get some dry running in Q3, maybe just about. Might be a bit of a stretch, but we're at the very end of Q2 then. I've waited till towards the end of the session as the track's getting drier and drier. I felt like the intermediates would work better and better as the track got drier, so I waited quite a bit into Q2, but we go across the line and it's only going to be P9 there, and then by the time I go through the end of the session, 2 minutes to go, we're still P9, just about there, ahead of Carlos Sainz and behind Nico Hülkenberg, my teammate, doing well. But then by the end of the session I run out of time to set a lap time, and unfortunately it's a pretty bad showing for the very first qualifying session of this new season. We're knocked out of Q2 in P12. You can see the difference to Magnussen is stark and really shocking, actually. Magnussen completely whooped my arse there in qualifying, so we're going to have to make it up in the race. Like I said, though, the intermediates in full wet conditions have never been my expertise area on the F1 game, so what's to be expected that my teammate will at least beat me, but not by that margin. I'm hoping Magnussen can fly the flag then in Q3, but at the moment, a bit of a shaky start to say where our car is on paper, but like I said, we'll just get it done in the race, hopefully, and make up positions. But the first few rounds of a season, I feel, are always kind of wish-washy. You just never know what's going to happen, and it's the time for kind of weird surprises and results. So let's just get our head down and try and do the best we can in Sunday.
New drivers, new cars, and a new Formula One season. But it's the same Albert Park that we've come to know and love for more than 2 decades now that hosts the first round of a 21-race championship, taking us from here in Melbourne, Australia, across the globe before we eventually reach the season finale at Yas Marina Circuit in Abu Dhabi. Just south of Melbourne's downtown business centre is the one and only Albert Park circuit. 3.3 miles of public roads, closed for the weekend of course, make for a bumpy circuit with little undulation. There are 16 corners around the lake and a couple of good passing opportunities here as well, thanks in part to the DRS zones into turns 1, 3 and 13. I'm joined today in the commentary box, as I will be throughout this season, by a great racing driver, former F1 competitor, and who was world champion once upon a time as well, and an all-round top chap. It's the one and only Anthony Davidson. And tell me, here we are, first Grand Prix of the season, the first time racing these cars. So what are the big questions that need to be answered here, in your view?
First of all, Crofty, and thanks for the glowing introduction, I just want to say it's a real privilege to be here, and I can't wait to see what this competitive field has in store for us this season. Now, to answer your question, obviously there's the question of performance in race trim, but really this is going to be all about reliability. It's the first Grand Prix of the season, don't forget. You're pushing all your new components to their limits. Formula One cars are full of very sophisticated but also very sensitive technology. So the most important thing today is to get to the end of the race, keep everything in good condition and try to stay out of trouble while you're at it.
We're almost ready to go then, and this is what the starting grid looks like for today's race. Sebastian Vettel has a clear track ahead of him today. He starts in pole position, with Daniel Ricciardo slotting in alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Raikkonen, Hamilton, Valtteri Bottas, and Verstappen, Hülkenberg, Magnussen, Sainz, and Stoffel van Dorn. Ocon, the engineer, Charles Leclerc and Hartley, Ericsson, Alonso, Sergei Sirotkin and Pierre Gasly. Stroll and Sergio Perez rounds off the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track.
Right, so it's race time, and strategy-wise, going to be a pretty simple choice for us today. Unlike what we did in the opening round of this career mode, it's not going to be a two-stop for us today. It's going to be a one-stop, super soft tire to the soft tire. Of course, since everyone qualified on intermediates or full wets in Q2, everyone gets a free choice of tire compounds. So I suspect everyone on the grid will be trying to do this one-stop, super soft to soft tire and just avoiding the ultra softs because no one has to run it. It's only by choice. So if they do run it, it'll be a choice to do a two-stop. I think most will try this one stop here. So pretty simple. So the task is pretty simple as well. Just try and move forward from P12 here and try and recover from what was a bad day in the office on Saturday. So here we go then, the start of Season 2. What could be quite an exciting one here today as we go to 5 red lights to the Australian Grand Prix. Round number 1 of Season 2 is underway. And it's a good start for us compared to Esteban Ocon there on the left. But Leclerc's also had a good one in the Sauber. He's down in the middle of both of us. Into turn 1, big lock up from us trying to avoid the back end of Stoffel van Dorn as turn 1 always tightens up so much at the very start here. But now we're on the back of Van Dorn. He's going to equally maybe try and make a pass on Hülkenberg down the inside. So we're going to have to stick in with him and try and follow him almost. We're going to go down the inside of the German, squeeze him out, very aggressive on the right-hander there. And so we're up into what is now P10. Van Dorn up into P9. So both of us making a good getaway through the opening turns. And Magnussen with a bit of a sluggish start. He's only just ahead of Van Dorn. And meanwhile, I'm defending a little bit from Hülkenberg there in Sector 1 as we move into Sector 2. But now we move to the end of lap 1. Vettel leading the way off pole position, still leading the race. I can see ahead of Daniel Ricciardo and then the 2 Mercs. But here we go now, a move on Van Dorn round the outside of turn 1 there. Nice and easy on the throttle, mid-apex. Try and get the power down as early as we can now. Look behind us, and Van Dorn is behind us, and he's going to have to slot in. We're going to go a little bit defensive to the next corner, make sure he doesn't try and dive us back there. And so we're up into P9, and we'll now try and chase after what will be Carlos Sainz, because my teammate Magnussen has actually overtaken him while by the time we get up to it, the Spaniard. So now we go round on the left-hand side. It's going to be a bit of an easier pass maybe than was on Van Dorn. We get the job done even before we exit turn 1 there, and we're up into P8. So Magnussen P7, I'd say both of us have made pretty good progress. I said, I mentioned about Magnussen flying the flag in Q3. He didn't have the best of times in Q3. I'm not sure if it stayed intermediate in Q3 or it dried out, but Magnussen, I was expecting a bit more from him in qualifying, considering where our car is on paper compared to Ferrari and Red Bull and even Mercedes. So I was a little bit worried about that, but looks like at the moment, race pace-wise, myself and Magnussen going quite well here. And actually look at up ahead, yellow flags, and Daniel Ricciardo has retired here from the Grand Prix. He's parked up there on the right. He was in second place behind the race leader, Sebastian Vettel. He was on the front row in qualifying. That's such a shame, and just like in real life, Ricciardo is hit with some issues there and has to park up. I'm not sure if that's an engine or a mechanical failure. Let's see a replay here. Ricciardo, like I said, was running P2 quite nicely ahead of Raikkonen and both Mercedes cars. And there you go. I don't know, the car just goes, mechanical failure. Quite surprised, actually. Ooh, he makes a bit of contact with the Merc there. Quite surprised he didn't cause any kind of big accident, but yeah, he just parks up there on the right-hand side. And so that's the first bit of pain and misery for Red Bull Racing and Daniel Ricciardo. Such a shame there for him, but it means we move up into P7 and P6. So I don't know if it's going to be a story of the season, maybe, that our car is maybe not amazingly quick in qualifying on low fuel pace, but then on higher fuel, our car goes well. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but clearly at the moment, our car is showing much more better prowess than it was in Q2 for me, in Q3 for Magnussen. Meanwhile, speaking about recovery drives, Fernando Alonso also didn't have a great time in qualifying yesterday. He qualified way down in P15 or P14, I think it was, and so he overtakes Leclerc finally. He got past that Toro Rosso as well, and so he's going to make his way through as we go through the laps then in this opening stint, closing up on the Force India. Obviously McLaren now the third best engine on the grid, and using that to good use clearly as Alonso tries to power past the Force India there around the outside. A lovely move there from Fernando Alonso, and actually surprisingly right now his teammate Van Dorn is higher up the order. So many times at the end of last season we saw Alonso make these crazy dives and crazy starts to get up into P3, P2 at the start of a Grand Prix, but very weird to see his teammate Van Dorn a couple of positions up ahead. But it looks like it's a bit of a Renault sandwich between the two McLarens. Up ahead then is myself closing up on Magnussen, and both of us are trying to close up on Verstappen, who's chasing after the two Mercs who are trying to trail Raikkonen in second place. And at the moment it's a 1-2 for Ferrari, but Sebastian Vettel is way ahead of his teammate here. So I think, I don't want to say it, but I think the win is already wrapped up for Vettel, to be honest, if he doesn't have any calamities, because he's so far ahead of Kimi at the moment, and it looks like those two Mercs are going to fight Raikkonen. So unlike last season, looks like Vettel at the moment is the man in charge, and the reigning world champion Lewis Hamilton, crowned in Season 1, at the moment has to do a bit of a fight back against his teammate and Raikkonen. But speaking about a fight back against teammate here, we're trying to overtake Kevin Magnussen. Didn't quite work out there on lap number 10. K-Man getting the elbows out, and as you would expect, you know, he gave us a good half fight all of last season. So let's see if we can have a good one this year as well. But we're going to close up now and try and overtake him eventually now on lap 11 with DRS. Some ERS obviously deploying, and in the end, actually, it's a bad lockup for Magnussen that does it for him, and we're able to overtake him quite easily up into P6 then. But I should suspect he comes back at us in this Grand Prix, so let's not dawdle. But we're actually going to come in straight away now on the end of lap 12 for a pit stop. We're going to match one of the Mercedes cars up ahead, and Verstappen and also Kimi Raikkonen then on this pit stop here. And so we're going to all be onto soft tyres, and it's going to be a straight to the end of the Grand Prix then. Like I predicted, I think everyone is doing this one stop here at the Australian Grand Prix. Magnussen stayed out as well as one of the Mercedes cars here, so we'll see how the undercut v the overcut works. Obviously last year's Grand Prix, we got caught up in so much traffic with the two stop versus Magnussen, who ended up, I think, pulling off a one stop here. So I kind of learned from last season, obviously, but you got to cut me some slack. That very first Australian Grand Prix was the very first race I'd done ever on this game as a 50% racing career mode, so that was definitely a learning process. And into Season 2, definitely, throughout this entire season, we can now use the knowledge we've gained from Season 1 to help us out in the race strategy and kind of, you know, just how to run the entire race weekend. But actually, surprisingly to me, down the inside, we go into turn 1 on lap 14, and Magnussen has jumped us. So the overcut flat out for Magnussen, it just worked a treat. I didn't even get caught up in traffic. I don't really know what that was. Maybe Magnussen saved up a lot of his ERS and then just pushed flat out. Maybe he was saving some pace there, and so that's maybe why my pass was so easy, but very surprised then. And so Magnussen's the one ahead of me on the back of Max Verstappen. So gonna have to try and catch my teammate and try and re-overtake him. And whilst we do that, maybe have a chance to have a pop at Verstappen here. But saying that, looks like Magnussen has other ideas. He's going to go for a move to the inside of Verstappen into the middle of the high-speed chicane. They're still neck and neck as Verstappen keeps his nose in, and he actually shoves Magnussen a little bit wide there. And Magnussen with DRS, maybe can he get some more straight line speed as we go down to the next brake zone for the right-hander on the outside though. And Verstappen just able to get the elbows out again on the apex and the exit and shoves Magnussen off the road nearly. And so he's going to defend that position quite hard, but that's going to allow me to close up. You can see in the background there how close I am now in the second last corner. Meanwhile, also further up ahead between the two Mercedes cars, we've got a good battle. Raikkonen's already been overtaken by both Mercedes cars, so I think the Mercs jumped Raikkonen in the pit lane and also the pit stop strategy. And now it's Hamilton round the outside of his teammate there, and so the reigning world champion is up into second place now of this Grand Prix. Bottas down to third from initially was P2 then, and Raikkonen is down P4, so I'm pretty sure Raikkonen got jumped in the pit stop phases. Now it's a big dive from Magnussen down the inside now to that right hand to the end of the back straight then, and Magnussen should have the inside line to maybe squeeze Verstappen out, but no, that Red Bull car obviously has the superior downforce still. The Haas car may have the best chassis, the Red Bull still has that pure downforce, so in the middle of the corner still has the grip there, and they're actually still side by side for that entire last section of Sector 3, and it's going to allow us to close up here. Can we make it a 3-wide move here as we've got ERS, DRS alter going, rich mix flowing down the inside, big dive to the inside of turn 1, a little bit wide on the exit, but we're up into P5 now, and that's a sweet double overtake move on my teammate Kevin Magnussen and also Red Bull's Max Verstappen. And Verstappen and Magnussen are still going at it, two of the most stubborn drivers on the grid, and they just will not give each other the room and the kind of position effectively. And Magnussen now squeezing Verstappen out, but he's got it back. The downforce of the Red Bull again pulls him back through despite Magnussen having the better racing line, and so these two are still going at it. I've just run out of words, really. I don't know how this battle's still going on, honestly. I'm hoping at some stage the Ferrari power of Magnussen can help him out here a little bit, because it's getting a little frustrating, because I feel like it looks like Magnussen has better pace than Verstappen. Clearly, I had better pace than both of them, and so at the moment, Verstappen's really just holding up Magnussen and not allowing him to go on, and oh, look at that. Again, Magnussen with a dive to the inside, and again, Verstappen just has it in the mid-corner, is able just to squeeze him out, but now on the outside to the end of Sector 1 into Sector 2, and Magnussen pulls off the most impossible pass there. Look at that. In all the other places where it's easier to pass, Magnussen can't make the overtake, but in one of the hardest places to make an overtake, he makes it work, and he's up ahead finally of Verstappen, and now he can try and chase after me, and subsequently I'm trying to chase after this man, Kimi Raikkonen, who is also trying to keep on the back of the two Mercedes cars of Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas. And as we move through the Grand Prix, then the Finn is fancying a chance on his Brit teammate here on the outside with DRS. Valtteri Bottas goes a long way around, will turn to the inside for the next left-hander though. Hamilton squeezes him quite hard, but Valtteri Bottas gets the elbows out there, and the two Silver Arrows still go hammer and tong once again in this Grand Prix, slows both of them down, and Raikkonen is now right up there, chuffed there. The dust gets kicked up there as one of the cars has got their tyre on the grass, and that's not only helping Raikkonen out, but by the time we get to lap 18 there, it's also helped me out, and now I'm going to be right up the back of Raikkonen here, and so this is going to invite not only myself, but also Magnussen there. He's past Verstappen now, he's left Verstappen for dust on the minimap I can see, so maybe Magnussen can also get involved in this. So licking my lips at the moment, not going to lie, because now I fancy my chances here. These guys fight enough, I can just try and catch them all napping and try and make one swift move to try and overtake at least one of them. Probably Raikkonen here, you would say, at the end of the train, but look at that again, the two Mercedes slow. Oh, they're side by side, they slowed each other down. Raikkonen's backed out there, and so we make a double overtake, maybe even a triple overtake with this amazing camera shot here. So we swing through into the hairpin round the outside of Bottas and Raikkonen. We've taken both fins out in one move there. Couldn't quite make the triple overtake work on Hamilton, but it's still good enough for me. A double pass, lovely stuff into turn 1. The two Mercs went side by side, slow each other down. Looks like Raikkonen backed out the throttle not to hit the back of Hamilton, and so that allowed me to overtake them in one foul swoop. And now it's Raikkonen v Bottas now for P4 as we've waltzed away and we're trying to chase down Hamilton, and this fighting between the two Finns has allowed Magnussen to close up there in P6. Can he make it P4 though? Is he going to go 3 wide to the inside? What a move there by Magnussen, and it's Bottas on the inside that gets pinched, but he finds the room and he managed to wiggle past both of them and get back up into P4, but Magnussen's made the overtake at least on Raikkonen there, and so great to see. It looks like it's not only me now, it's actually just the car is finding some great pace. And what did I say earlier on in the episode? It looks like maybe our car just has pure race pace, maybe doesn't have the one lap pace on lower fuel, but under race conditions we've got it. And so now here we go to the inside of Lewis Hamilton now for P2 in this Grand Prix. It's going to have to be a big old squeeze on the exit, but Hamilton still got his nose in there, and we're still side by side through the left-hander to the right, usually flat out in qualifying. Gonna have to lift off a little bit to give Hamilton the room, but we go across the racing line and we're trying to defend the position here as we go into Sector 2 then, and we are up into P2 ahead of our fellow Brit. Absolutely awesome. And meanwhile, look at this, Magnussen round the outside of Bottas on the back straight there. He's going to have to work for it into the last bit of the third sector there on the outside. Very, very tricky stuff, but Magnussen has pulled it off, and look at that. He's up into P4. Absolutely fantastic stuff there. Bottas relegated down to P5, Raikkonen P6. You love to see it. The Haas is working very well indeed now around Australia, and as Hamilton tries to make a move into turn 1, unable to do it. As we move on now to lap 24, Hamilton may try another pop here. We're on high ERS, but the Mercedes car might be on even higher modes, and he tries around the outside. We go defensive to the inside of turn 1, just parking the apex there, but he's got the run. He's got a very good run into turns 2, and so we have to try and go a little bit even more defensive. We're going to look behind us quite a lot here with Rich Mix going overtake mode in the ERS to the inside. Again, Hamilton tries it like he did with Valtteri Bottas in this part of the circuit, but we managed to keep it on the outside, and we're going to remain in P2 for now. And all the while, this is going to allow Magnussen to close up rapid time on us. We've only got 5 laps left in this Grand Prix, so I'm hoping that the ideal scenario here is that Magnussen closes up. He's actually there in the background, you can already see. So the ideal scenario is that Magnussen overtakes Hamilton and we can get a 2-3 here. That'd be absolutely amazing. And here goes Magnussen. That's his Haas on the outside there. You can see I'm trying to get away from Hamilton, and Hamilton now is slowing himself down, trying to defend from K-Mag. Go on, son. If he can try and get him. He tried it on the outside. Didn't quite work the same way he managed it before against Verstappen here. He's going to have to wait through the second last corner and out to the last, but he'll have ERS, hopefully, DRS definitely, and also some rich mix to maybe burn. And so he goes now down the main pit straight here to try and overtake Lewis Hamilton for the last podium position here. Here he goes to the inside, then Hamilton the outside. We switch to the camera shot, and that's so close there. A little bit of contact between the tyre and the sideboard of Magnussen to Hamilton, but Magnussen pulls through and he's got it. He has got ahead of Lewis Hamilton. He's up into P3, and so hopefully we can bring this home for a fantastic P2 and P3 here at the Australian Grand Prix, but it might not actually be done there. The story might not be over as we move on towards the last lap of the Grand Prix. Magnussen might fancy trying to overtake me and spoiling my party and trying to get his P2 back, because obviously he did start ahead of us in this Grand Prix, so he might be trying to get that on the last minute here. We're on the last lap, the last time we need to do this, and so we go defensive with high fuel mixture, high on the ERS as well. We park it on the apex there on the racing line, and it's going to be fine for now in sectors 1 and through into sector 3 on the back straight here. Again, looking behind us, Magnussen closing up rapidly there, but he can't get it now. There's no way he's going to make a pass in this last part, and so Sebastian Vettel will win the first Grand Prix of Season 2 here, the Australian Grand Prix. The German absolutely dominant performance here around Melbourne, but we're going to get P2 and crucially Magnussen also P3. This is going to be a fantastic start, the most ideal start really. Only better thing could have been was us winning the Grand Prix. So P2, P3 here for us. What a great start to Season 2 for us.
My friend, top job. I was a bit worried about this one at the start of the weekend, but you pulled through. Thank you.
Here's our winner, pulling their Ferrari into Parc Fermé. What a fantastic race it was. And I have to wonder, Anthony Davidson, just what set them apart from the competition here?
Well, I'd say it's just raw pace, plain and simple. I mean, we could sit here and talk about strategy all day, the overtaking, looking after the tyres, but at the end of it all, if you want to win, you need a package that's got the speed over everyone else, and that's exactly what they had today.
So, here they come now, out onto the podium. Wherever you go, anywhere in the world, the prancing horse flags are dominant in the grandstands, and they're out in force again today. It's Ferrari on the top step once more.
Like I said, probably one of the most ideal starts then to this Season 2 here for us as a team. P2, P3, and you can see maybe the one-lap pace isn't there, but in race conditions, our car is flying there. I mean, Magnussen showed some great pace there, some great also willpower to get past all those cars initially after I just flew past him there. He could have easily been stopped behind, Verstappen, Kimi, and all those lot. And actually, it looks like Raikkonen and Verstappen both had some issues for themselves, and Verstappen scoring no points there. Kimi as well. Leclerc scores 1 point for Sauber, so he does a great job in 10th place. Fernando Alonso got up into P5 there, just behind Lewis Hamilton, so he's done really well because Fernando qualified in P14, so all round a big day for a lot of the midfield teams, or quote-unquote midfield to top teams, because a good day in the office then for Alonso at least, and us obviously now, we lead the Constructors' Championship actually, because of Vettel getting a win obviously, but Kimi not scoring any points. Both Red Bulls did not score any points, so Red Bull are way down in the bottom 3 now with 0 points, and Renault actually outscored Mercedes because Bottas had issues as well, so it's a crazy first race here, and it means we lead the Constructors. Absolutely bonkers. And actually looking at that, we got a replay then of what actually happened to Valtteri Bottas. He slowed up with mechanical failure on the last corner, and that actually meant that Raikkonen also, who was close behind, slammed into him and lost a good chunk of his front wing, so Bottas retired out of that race, or at least was limping round. I think it doesn't actually look to be a mechanical failure. Actually, it's going to be a puncture there on the left rear. Yeah, his left rear is delaminated there, and so he had to go, trundle around the circuit very slow, and Raikkonen had to make a last-minute pit stop for major front wing damage. So that is how Bottas and Raikkonen went out the points, and that's how this man, Fernando Alonso, got elevated up into P5. So a really crazy day and a bad day in the office for the Red Bull team as a whole. Double DNF. Bad day, really, you got to say, for Ferrari. Obviously they got a win with Vettel, but Kimi, could have done a lot better there. And also for Mercedes, the reigning Constructors champions, Bottas unlucky there with a puncher, but it means great success for a team like us as Haas, and also Renault. They're ahead of Mercedes at the moment in the Constructors, so I don't think they'd be thinking about that when they're going into this Grand Prix. So pretty nutty day in the office, but we're going to go then to the first interview of the season there with Claire.
The fans really seem to enjoy that. You made it look easy. Did you struggle to get through all that traffic today?
So we could go for any of these answers, really. Any of them would do really well. So I'm going to say about pushing the car hard, and the durability was quite good during that race. So I'm going to go for that.
We all underestimated you, didn't we?
I'm going to go for the right-hand answer. I think saying you underestimated the team, because obviously, even myself, I think I underestimated what a race pace was going to be like there. So I think that right-hand answer is really up our alley.
You must be happy with the result today.
I'm going to go with the bottom answer. It all came together, and then, of course, my driving. And I thought that was going to be a bit of a cocky answer, but it ended up actually being a very sportsmanship-like answer, because I said everything was good, as well as my driving there. So that's fair play. So a lot of sportsmanship here.
That was a close finish. How are things between the two of you?
And to round it off, I want to say heated. It is a bit of a heated rivalry between Magnussen, but I feel like we're both kind of pushing each other. That's going to be the one and only showmanship kind of trait I show in this interview here after Australia.
Great. Well, that's everything.
So there we have it. Came off as quite a sportsman there in those questions. Quite surprised, actually. I thought most of those answers were quite cocky, but the game thought otherwise. But yeah, obviously we beat Magnussen for the first time this season. I need to actually set a new rival alongside my teammate. Of course, you can choose a rival each time you do it. So I'm going to go ahead and choose that right now. So obviously we have a choice of all the top guys, but to be honest, one that really sticks with me is Fernando Alonso. We focused on him so much at the end of last season, and I feel like out of all those guys, he's the one that I think is the best fit for a rival for us this season at the very start alongside Magnussen. So I'm going to choose him. If we beat him, we get 20 respect points there, along with Magnussen with 23. So it's not going to be an easy one, because we've seen so many times Fernando Alonso's AI in this game is so good, especially at the race start. So we're going to have to watch out for that, and definitely could give us a run for the money. But anyway, going into the next episode then for the Bahrain Grand Prix, looking at upgrades now. We've got a decent amount of resource points to spend. I'm thinking about going towards downforce here, because I think that's where we're really lacking. We've got the best chassis, we're pretty good on engine, so we're going to go for a rear downforce there, minor rear downforce. I wanted to see if we could go for a front downforce as well, but I literally missed out by 10 points, 10 resource points, and I could have also done a simultaneous update on the front downforce. So that was quite frustrating there, but that's just how the cookie crumbles. So only one minor there on the downforce front, but actually we do have enough points to spend on the chassis department once again, surprisingly, actually, because we've done obviously the two quality kind of reducing the price of the chassis. So we're going to go for a tyre update there, and we're going to go for this right hand side one, because that will also open us up to go for an ultimate upgrade on the tyre wear straight away. You can see that big rectangle there, so that's going to be quite good in the future. So going into Bahrain with those two minor updates, look on the right hand side actually, with those two minor updates, we could end up having the best car on the grid, mathematically there on the charts. So that's going to be quite exciting there going into Bahrain, which will be quite a tough Grand Prix, because the AI are always really good around there. But guys, if you have enjoyed what has been a really fun first opening round in Season 2, then smash the like button. Also, smash the like button if you're looking forward to this entire season, because it's looking like to be a really great one, with 4 teams scrapping away, maybe even 5 if McLaren pull their stuff together by the end of it. It's going to be really exciting. But let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're around to, do subscribe for weekly full-on content. I've been Alva, home today, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.